Picture this. You've been grinding at work all day. Your feet ache, your shoulders are heavy, and all you want is to pull into your driveway, step inside your home, and enjoy a quiet evening with your family. But instead, when you press that garage door button, your heart skips a beat. Because there it is. A stranger's car, parked inside your garage. At first, your brain refuses to process it. You blink, lean forward, thinking maybe you're imagining things. Maybe you opened the wrong garage. Maybe this isn't even your house. But no, the address is right. This is your home, your property, your safe space. And the car doesn't belong to a lost delivery driver or some desperate neighbor who ran out of parking. No, this car belongs to the one person in the neighborhood you'd never expect, but somehow it makes twisted sense. The HOA president, the woman who spent months nitpicking your life, pointing fingers at every little thing you do, acting like she owns the entire neighborhood, the one who never misses a chance to remind you, you don't fit in. And now she's gone too far. Your pulse quickens. Your son, sitting in the passenger seat, whispers, "Dad, isn't that Karen's car?" You feel the heat rising in your chest. Because it is. It's her shiny white SUV, sitting smugly in a place she has no business being, in your garage. Your first instinct, rage, to march straight to her door, pound until she answers, and demand an explanation. But then, a thought strikes you. Something better. Because little does she know, this garage has a feature. A lock system. With one simple click, you can trap her car right where it sits. And suddenly, the power shifts. For months, she's controlled the rules, the fines, the complaints. But tonight, she's the one caught. Tonight, she's the one about to feel powerless, embarrassed, and completely exposed in front of everyone. And the best part, she has no idea what's coming. Marcus Johnson wasn't just any homeowner. He was a man who had fought hard for every brick, every blade of grass, and every square foot of the house he now called his own. A Navy veteran, Marcus had spent years serving his country before working 2 jobs just to give his 12-year-old son, Jordan, a better life. Buying that house in a quiet suburban neighborhood was supposed to be the reward for all those long nights and sacrifices. It wasn't just a house, it was their sanctuary. But peace? That's not what Marcus found. The moment he moved in, trouble introduced itself in the form of Karen, the president of the neighborhood HOA. From the very beginning, Karen had her eyes on Marcus, and not in a friendly, welcome to the neighborhood way. No, her eyes carried judgment, suspicion, and a sense of ownership, as if she had the right to decide who belonged there and who didn't. It started small. A letter in his mailbox about his son's basketball hoop being too close to the driveway. Then came the warning about his lawn supposedly being half an inch too long. Not long after, Karen was criticizing the color of his welcome mat. Yes, the welcome mat. Marcus laughed it off at first, telling Jordan, "Don't let her bother you, son. Some people just need something to complain about." But deep down, Marcus knew. This wasn't about rules or neighborhood standards. This was about him, about the fact that he was a black man in a neighborhood where people like Karen weren't used to seeing someone like him as their neighbor. The petty complaints turned into constant tension. Marcus found himself bracing every time he walked outside, wondering what she'd nitpick next. And yet he endured it. He kept his head high, determined not to let Karen win. Weeks turned into months, and Marcus thought he'd seen the worst of her antics. But he was wrong, because one ordinary Friday evening, Karen would cross a line so bold, so outrageous, that Marcus would finally be forced to push back in a way she never saw coming. It was a Friday evening, the kind of night Marcus looked forward to all week. He had just wrapped up a long shift at work, and all he wanted was to get home, cook dinner with Jordan, and maybe catch a movie together. As he pulled into the neighborhood, the stress of the day started to ease. He pressed the button to open the garage, expecting to see the familiar, empty space waiting for his truck. But instead, his jaw dropped. Sitting inside his garage, bold as ever, was a shiny white SUV. At first, Marcus froze, gripping the steering wheel. His brain scrambled for answers. Had someone broken in? Was this some kind of mistake? But the more he looked, the clearer it became. This wasn't just anyone's car. The license plate, the vanity decal on the back window, it all screamed one name. Karen. Marcus's son leaned forward in disbelief. Dad, isn't that her car? Marcus's blood boiled. Oh, it's her car, all right. The audacity of it hit him like a wave. Not only had Karen spent months harassing him over the smallest things, but now she had crossed into his home, his private space, the one place he thought was safe from her constant interference. He stepped out of his truck, circling the SUV like a predator sizing up its prey. There was no note left behind, no explanation, just Karen's car sitting in his garage as if it belonged there. Marcus tried calling the HOA line, no answer. He even walked over and knocked on Karen's door. Nothing. She was either ignoring him or pretending not to be home. And that's when Marcus remembered something, a feature most people overlooked. His garage had a locking system. With a single press of a button, he could seal those doors and trap anything inside, including Karen's precious SUV. Marcus stood there for a moment, thinking. He could call the police right away. He could wait until morning, or he could make a point. A slow grin spread across his face as he pressed the button. Click. The lock engaged. Karen's car was now his unwilling guest. Let's see how the queen of the HOA likes playing by someone else's rules, Marcus muttered, finally feeling the tables begin to turn. The next morning, Marcus woke to the sound of furious pounding on his front door. Bang, bang, bang. He opened it, and there stood Karen. Her face was flushed red, her hair frazzled, and her eyes wild with rage. She didn't even bother with a greeting. "What do you think you're doing?" she screeched, jabbing her finger toward his garage. "That's my car in there. You had no right to trap it." Marcus leaned casually against the doorframe, arms folded, calm as stone. "Correction," he said slowly. "That's my garage. So maybe you'd like to explain why your car was in there in the first place." Karen huffed, puffed up her chest, and crossed her arms. The community center lot was full last night. I had important guests over, and I wasn't going to let them park on the street like common strangers. As HOA president, I have the authority to use available spaces. You should be grateful I trusted you enough to use yours. Marcus's eyebrow arched. Grateful? You broke into my garage without permission, parked your SUV like you owned the place, and now you expect me to thank you? Her lips curled. If you don't open it right now, I'll fine you for obstruction. In fact, she pulled out her phone, waving it like a weapon. I'll call the police. You'll be arrested for unlawfully detaining my vehicle. Marcus smirked, his patience worn thin. Please, go ahead. Call them. Let's see what they say. For the first time, Karen faltered. Her phone hovered in her hand, but her eyes darted nervously. She hadn't expected him to challenge her. She was used to neighbors rolling over, afraid of HOA fines, afraid of her power. But Marcus wasn't afraid. Not anymore. Minutes later, sirens wailed faintly in the distance. Karen had actually called. She stood tall, chin up, rehearsing her lies under her breath. Marcus, meanwhile, stood with his son beside him, calm and confident. When the officers arrived, Karen launched into a dramatic tale, claiming Marcus had harassed her, stolen her vehicle, and locked her property unlawfully. She painted herself as the victim, her voice dripping with entitlement. But Marcus knew the truth was about to catch up with her. And when the officers turned to him, he was ready. The officer listened to Karen's frantic complaints, nodding but saying little. When she finally ran out of breath, he turned calmly to Marcus. "Sir, is this your property?" Marcus handed him the deed papers he always kept in a folder. "Yes, officer. This garage belongs to me." She parked her car inside without permission. The officer examined the documents, then looked back at Karen. "Ma'am, this is private property. You had no legal right to enter his garage or leave your vehicle there." Karen's face twisted. "But I'm the HOA president. That gives me authority over neighborhood spaces." The officer shook his head firmly. "Not over someone's home. The HOA does not override property rights. In fact, parking in someone's private garage without consent is trespassing. You're lucky he didn't file a formal report. Jordan, standing beside his father, beamed. So, does that mean she's in trouble? The officer gave a small smile. If your dad wants to press charges, yes. At the very least, she'll face a citation for illegal parking. Karen's confidence crumbled. Her eyes darted from Marcus to the locked garage, then back to the officer. For once, she had no power, no control. She stammered. I just needed the space. I didn't think. Marcus cut her off. That's the problem, Karen. You didn't think. He unlocked the garage, letting her SUV roll free. Next time, remember, this is my home, and you don't get to cross that line. Karen stormed away, humiliated, and from that day on, she never dared bother Marcus again. And that's how one man stood his ground and reminded everyone that respect isn't optional, even for an HOA president. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and of course, subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories, just like this one. And tell me in the comments, what would you have done if you were in Marcus's shoes?